Shalom. First and foremost, call Loyim Wakabad La Yahweh Bashim Yahushai Bashim Arakhakwadash Shema Yasharala Yahweh Lahayanawa Yahweh Achad. Double honor to the elder apostles of the great Muslim who rule well. Peace, blessings, and salutations to the tabernacle of David, the hopeful elect that are scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. And his lesson is going to be based around this verse in Daniel, the second chapter. This is the 44th verse, and it says, "And in the days of these kings shall the power of heaven set up a kingdom which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people. But it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever." And when you read Daniel the seventh chapter, it talks about the Son of the Most High, which is Yahushai, being presented before the Most High. And Daniel saw him, come with the clouds, and he came to the Most High, to his throne, and was presented before him, and he saw there given to him a dominion, glory, a kingdom that all nations and languages and people would serve him, and his dominion would be an everlasting dominion that would never pass away, and it would never be destroyed. So how could you know that and still believe or teach that any nation have a fighting chance of ever getting back into power once the kingdom of heaven is established? If you believe that and teach that, clearly the light is not in you. All right. And I remember doing a lesson going into this a while back, but I don't think I've ever saved that video. It might have been on one of the channels that been terminated, years ago. But it just goes to show you that our captivity that we're currently under, which is under the dominion of the fourth beast, which we know according to the seventh chapter, and also in Revelation the 13th chapter, that fourth beast, which was diverse from all the others, very powerful, which was the Roman Empire. We know that it was wounded with a deadly wound, but it got healed, and it resurfaced. It came back into power, and now we're at the foot of that same beast, which is the 10 toes. You had the toes that are miry, and the toes that were part iron, and we're living in that time right now. All right, they're currently in power, and we're gonna witness their fall in this age. The scriptures say Esau is the end of the world and Jacob's beginning that follows. So what does that tell you? That Esau would be the final ruler that would have dominion on the earth before Yahushua returns to the earth and take back which is rightfully his, which is the earth, and set up his kingdom over it. And everybody's going to be subdued. Everybody's going to be in subject to him. He's going to be the higher power. And he has a government right up under him that's going to govern the earth in righteousness. All right. And when you read the next verse, it's going into that stone. And this is Yahushua, who's representative of that stone. For as much as thou sawest that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it break in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold. So all these other nations, they will no longer have power. They will never have rule or authority. And it tells you when you go back over to Daniel the seventh chapter, it says, as concerning the rest of the beasts, they had their dominion taken, yet their lives were prolonged for a season and a time. So, we know that those previous dominions before the Roman Empire, they had their time to rule. They had that set duration when they would be in power and in total dominion, and the Lord would, you know, put them down and set up another kingdom. All right. So going back to the 44th verse, It says, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people. This is talking about the kingdom of heaven. All right, the kingdom, all right, which when you go to Isaiah 45, let's go there real quick. Let's prove that this dominion is going to be everlasting. And despite what these bugged out Christians believe, like the doctrine of supersessionism or replacement theology, where you're going to have the church of all these different heathens that believe in, Jesus or whatever, that somehow, some way that they're going to partake in this dominion, and they're going to be joint heirs with Yahweh Shai. Like they're going to be sitting side by side on thrones with actual Israelites, and they're going to get to walk through the gates, where you have broken down in Revelation, the 12 gates represent the 12 foundation, the 12 tribes, and you're going to have Moabites going through the tribe of the gate of Zebulon. You're going to have Elamites going through the gate of Issachar. And hell no, man. No, the literal descendants of Israelites. Those people were accounted for the promise. That's the seed. All right, and they're gonna rule the world. So let's go real quick to Isaiah 45 and 17, and it says, "But Israel shall be saved in the Lord with an everlasting salvation. You shall not be ashamed nor confounded world without end." All right, and that means for continuity of time, our kingdom is going to be without interruption. All right, it's not going to be succeeded. It's going to be without an end. Let's look up that word, without end. And it's from the word iwalam, and it says long duration and antiquity, futurity, forever, ever, everlasting, evermore, perpetual. Okay. And down here it says forever, always, continuous existence, perpetual, everlasting, indefinite or unending future, eternity. All right, and Israel is going to rule for eternity, man. So that's pretty much it. Curtain closed for you other nations, man, that had your time on the stage. All right. You now, once Yahushai comes back, you now may exit stage left. All right. It was good having you nations as supporting cast. And Esau was the main antagonist in this show, in this movie. But the curtain's gonna close on him. All right. He had his time to rule. He was exalted to heaven, and the Lord's gonna bring him down. All right. So going back, when it says the kingdom shall not be left to other people, that's exactly what it means. No other nation will follow up. All right, after the dominion of Yahushua and the Israelites. All right, that's pretty much it. All right. Now you look up that word succeed, because when you read in history, you'll always read how a king, had a reign, a certain duration to reign, and afterwards someone succeeded him, whether it was his own son, who was heir to his throne, or whether he got taken down in battle, in war, and another nation ended up, um, basically replacing that king. All right. Now succeed. You read the second one. It says to take over a throne, inheritance, office, or other position from. And then the synonyms: replace, take the place of, take over from, come after, follow, supersede, supplant, displace, oust, remove, unseat, usurp. So ain't no way in hell, especially given the power that we're gonna have. No one will have the power to remove or unseat or take the place of Yahushua and the Israelites on earth. All right, no other nation, no other kingdom will ever have the chance to replace the throne of David. All right, that's going to be an everlasting throne. So no other nation will succeed the dominion of Israel. Okay, now you go to the other examples, going back to when you had these dominions rule, and I'm talking about after, post Egypt, because you had, dominions before ancient Egypt. You know, you had Anatolia, the Hittites. You go into the ancient kingdoms. Sumerians. There was times when these nations did rule, but dealing with the biblical historical timeline, it goes into how the Assyrians came into power, because this was post David and Solomon's kingdom, which that during that time, that was just a prelude to how the kingdom is actually going to be on earth. Solomon reigned for 40 years, and it was peace. He had dominion over all nations, and all nations were subject, and they were tributaries. All right, and had them, build in our kingdom, and it's going to be like that when Yahushua returns. Dominion is going to be given over to him. All right, so right after, uh, David and Solomon, went back to the spiritual realm. You still had kings amongst the throne of Judah and also in Israel, but it turned into a wicked rule, and that's when the Lord permitted to bring these nations upon us. All right, and it started with the Assyrians taking down the northern tribes. There was heavy into idolatry, and when you look up the history starting with the Neo-Assyrian Empire, it started around roughly around 911 BC. It started with what was his name? I think his name was Adad Nirari II, and he reigned for about 20 years. And that empire went on to reign for a good 300 years, at least 300, a little over 300 years, man. Which it ended with Ashur Uballet II, and then the Lord rose up the Neo-Babylonians. All right, starting with Nabopolassar around was it 605 BC, but I believe they started to come into power before that. All right, roughly around 626 BC, and they reigned for a total of 87 years. But Israel, we went into captivity under them for a good 70 years. All right, and that last ruler was who? Belshazzar. Which was you read about that in Daniel the fifth chapter. All right, and so on and so forth. He got proud, and the Lord had to warn him, hey, you know what we did with your father. All right, Nebuchadnezzar, or Nebuchadnezzar. And then Daniel got promoted because he was able to interpret this dream that he had, to break down, all right, that the statue, all right, with the thigh of brass, all right, the feet with the toes, part iron, part clay. It's like the thigh of brass, the breastplate of silver, the head of gold, which was the dominions of these other nations. And he broke it down. So he saw the Assyrians come into power, briefly. They had their time to rule, they had their duration, and then they fell, and they were succeeded by Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, and then you had Nebuchadnezzar, followed by his son Belshazzar. All right, And then after that came what? Media in Persia. Let's go to Daniel 5. And was it 26? Yeah, Daniel 5, verse 26, it says, "This is the interpretation of the thing, Mene, the Most High Power have numbered thy kingdom and finished it." And this is dealing with Babylon. Your dominion is about finished. It says, Tekel or Tekal, thou art weighed in the balance and art found wanting. Paris, thy kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and Persians. And that's, began the Achaemenid dynasty from roughly around 539 BC up until the time Darius III ruled, which was around roughly 336 BC. He reigned for about 5 years and he got took down by who? Alexander. And when you go to was that Daniel the 8th chapter, it goes into it. It's Daniel 8 and 1. It says, "In the 3rd year of the reign of King Belshazzar, a vision appeared unto me, even unto me Daniel, after that which appeared unto me at the first. And I saw in a vision, and it came to pass when I saw that I was at Shushan in the palace, which is in the province of Elam, and I saw in a vision, and I was by the river of Ulai. Then I lifted up my eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram which had 2 horns." And then, when you read, I'm going to jump down to the end of the chapter, which is going to further go into depth what that represents. All right. And this is actually dealing with basically this is a metaphor. All right, it's symbolic. It says, "And the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last." The one that was higher than the other is talking about the Persians, the Persian Empire, or the Achaemenid Empire. The Medes, it started with them, but they assimilated, into the Persian Empire, or they wasn't as powerful as Persia. And it says, "I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward, so that no beast might stand before him, and neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand, but he did according to his will and became great." All right, and the Persians, when they ruled, their reign was over 127 provinces from Ethiopia all the way to India. So that's a vast portion of land. So that was a great empire. They were pretty strong. Okay. And as I was considering, behold, an he goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth and touched not the ground, and the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. And he came to the ram that had 2 horns, which I had seen standing before the river, and ran unto him in the fury of his power. What is that going into? We're gonna get it. It says, "And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, and smote the ram, and brake his 2 horns. And there was no power in the ram to stand before him. But he cast him down to the ground, and stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver the ram out of his hand. Therefore the he goat waxed very great, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, and for it came up 4 notable ones toward the 4 winds of heaven." All right. And, when you go into this, is dealing with the history of how Alexander pretty much came and took away the dominion of the Persians, when he smote Darius III, and he reigned a good uh 12 years, and then he ended up dying. All right. And he left 4 generals up under him to take rule. And when you read the Maccabees, it tells you how wickedness, evils multiplied in the earth, showing you that that was the first reign of the wicked, Esau. That helps you understand how you know that the Edomites are in rule today. Because look at the earth now. Look at the state of the planet now. You got hepatitis in your strawberries. How is that happening? All right, First Maccabees 1, and I'm gonna just go straight to the point. Verse 4 says, and he gathered, talking about Alexander, he gathered a mighty strong host and ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries unto him. And this when the whole world became Hellenized. Everybody started to speak Greek, including the Israelites, man. All right. And after these things, he fell sick and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable, and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died, and his servants bare rule every one in his place. And after his death, they pulled all crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. And this is when the beginning of the battle between the two dynasties, which the kingdom was divided up into four generals. You had Cassander, Lysimachus, Ptolemy, and Seleucus, which the Seleucid Empire, they ruled over the north, and the Ptolemaic, or the Ptolemies, they ruled over the south. All right, Egypt, and so on and so forth. And they got the clashing, and there was battles and wars. They were trying to take each other down. They were trying to marry into alliances and backstab each other. You read all about that in this history, and Israel was constantly caught in the crossfires. All right, and you had that wicked demon Antiochus Epiphanes, who came out of the Seleucid dynasty. He's the one that came against Jerusalem and caused the abomination of desolation. And changed the ordinances and made it to where everybody got to consent to the religion of the king, and we got to sacrifice swine's flesh on the altar and deal with temple harlots in the temple. He made he made the temple defiled. So we caught hell. He was slaughtering a lot of us, and the Lord had to raise up, the Hasmoneans, the Maccabees brothers, to save us and rededicate the temple once the Lord smote his ass. All right, so this is what we have to endure during that time. All right, verse no, that was it. So going back to Daniel 8, it goes into debt. And let me just go down and go to the interpretation. Daniel 8 and 15, it says, and it came to pass when I, Daniel, had seen the vision and sought for the meaning, then behold, there stood before me as the appearance of a man, and I heard a man's voice between the banks of Ulai, which called and said, Gabriel, make this man to understand the vision. And he came near where I stood, and when he came, I was afraid and fell upon my face. But he said unto me, understand, O son of man, for at the time of the end shall be the vision. Now as he was speaking with me, I was in a deep sleep on my face toward the ground. But he touched me and set me upright, and said, behold, I will make thee know what shall be in the last end of the indignation, for the time appointed shall the end be. Or the end shall be, it says, the ram which thou sawest having two horns are the kings of Media and Persia, and the rough goat is the king of Grecia, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. All right, which was Alexander. And then once he died, it got broken up into those four generals, and then you had the two Seleucid and the Ptolemies, and then it goes right into Antiochus Epiphanes. He magnified himself. He caused craft to prosper in his hand. That's what that's going into. Even though we use this towards Esau today, because these same devils are in power, and through their policy, they're causing craft to prosper in their hand once again. Their enterprise, the New World Order. That's what they're doing right now, and they're magnifying themselves. They say that they're the Most High, and they're going to try to rule over us through a technocracy. But the Most High rules in the kingdom of men. All right, the Lord having ruled, that's a theocracy, and in the kingdom of heaven, that's what we're going to have. We're going to have a theocracy because the Lord's going to be in the midst, man. All right, so going back here, this basically what it's saying is, we done went through all these captivities and all these different dominions and nations taking each other down and coming into power. In our kingdom, that's not going to happen. The Lord set up down and he put us down and set up another. Okay, but not with Israel. We will not be put down again. Okay, and real quick before I end this lesson, because I ain't got too much time. I gotta start making moves real soon. This is from Chuck Smith's commentary, and his interesting read. All right, of course, there's some bones in it because he's not a prophet, and I don't know if he's an Israelite or not, but he says some things that's on point in this commentary. Now let me see. I'm gonna start right here, and it says the time of the kingdom of Israel has come to a close. The nation has been conquered by Babylon, and the people are now to be ruled by outside Gentile powers. All right, and we had not really ruled ever since the time of Solomon, and the kings that came right after them. We never really fully had dominion on earth. All right, so we're awaiting that dominion in which the scriptures say that the dominion. Let's go to Micah 4 and 8, and it says, "And thou, O tower of the flock, the stronghold of the daughter of Zion, unto thee it shall come, even the first dominion. The kingdom shall come to the daughter of Jerusalem." All right, and that's the first resurrection. All right, where the elect 144,000 and the remnant, they're gonna actually inherit the kingdom. And it's gonna start with Yahushua coming down to destroy these nations, take their dominion. That's what it means by when you go to Revelation, the 19th chapter. It talks about how he was gonna have all these crowns on his head. In Revelation 19 and 11, it says, "And I saw heaven open, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he doeth judge and make war." That's what Yahushua is coming back to do with the host of heaven, the angels. Will tear these nations a new one. His eyes was a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns. And he had a name written that no man knew but he himself, and was clothed in vesture dipped in blood, and his name was called the Word of the Most High. All right, Yahushua. And the armies which were in heaven followed him upon the white horses, clothed in fine linen, white and clean. They're gonna come and destroy the final beast. He's gonna break in pieces the toes. All right, and it's gonna be war in heaven, and you know they're not gonna prevail. Michael and his angels gonna destroy the dragon and his angels. It says, "And out of his mouth goeth a sharp sword, that with it he should smite the nations, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron, which was promised to him. And he tread of the winepress of the fierceness of the wrath of the Almighty power. And he have on his vesture and on his thigh a name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords." And I ain't talking about no damn tattoo for you ignorant niggas out there, man. All right, that's just a title that's gonna be given to him because he's gonna be the top king on earth. So going back, it says these major it says there will be five major Gentile powers that will be given rule over them, over the Israelites, and we will be scattered, through those different captivities under these major Gentile powers being in power. And I just basically went through that list. The Assyrians, the Babylonians, the Medes, um, Greece, the Greeks, and also Rome. Okay, the Roman Empire, which ended up, falling, after Domitian, and that's when Jake started to rule. But then it turned into something else, and it became, the dark period they call the Dark Ages, or the medieval times when Jake had their, reign. The whole so-called Holy Roman Empire, which it was nothing holy about it. It was still paganistic. But Jake ended up falling, and um, Satan that was loose. Satan was bound, in the bottomless pit for a season, but he got loosed, deceived the whole world, and came right back into power. And Yahweh Shai told us, going back to during the time of, the first dominion of Rome, that we will be led into all nations, captive. All right, and we will be up under the time of the Gentiles until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. In Luke the 21st chapter. So that rang true, because we're still yet this day in our captivity. We have not had no dominion. All right, we don't own nothing. We don't run nothing. We don't have any stake in anything in this world. All right, even though we built everything up and keep everything flourishing. All right, it says his dream of a great image of a man with a head of gold, chest of silver, stomach of brass, legs of iron, feet and 10 toes of iron and clay. It is significant that the image was that of a man, man's attempt to govern over man, the elevating of man, humanism, where the power is eliminated and man is supreme. And they don't acknowledge the Most High, especially in this setup. All right, they're saying that the Most High is obsolete. That basically we're your God. We're taking over. Our technocracy is your God. Our science is your God. That's what Esau's saying. That's why the Lord's saved his ass for last, and the Lord's going to destroy him. All right. Let me jump down. And then, of course, the first Gentile power to rule over them, Babylon, the head of gold, 538 BC. The head of gold was conquered by the chest and two arms of Media and Persia. The Medo-Persian Empire was conquered by the stomach of brass, or the Grecian Empire, headed by Alexander the Great, in 330 BC. 630, it's like in 63 BC, the Grecian Empire was subdued by the Romans, and after the Roman Empire fell, there has not been a major world dominating power. As they, that's what they say. But we know Jake actually ruled. They don't want to acknowledge when Jake, the Moors were all over Europe and all over the known world ruling. This leaves one part of the image unfulfilled, the feet and 10 toes of iron and clay, in which we're in that time now. It says, and as much as the iron represented the Roman Empire, the fact that the feet are part iron means that it will be related in some way to the Roman Empire. Yep. And you see it now. We're back in, we're under that same pattern of rule. Rome had um, a republic, all right, and then it became an empire. Um, and they ruled by the structure that we see today, where you have a senate. The Caesar, that's your president. They had the colleges. They had the coliseums. All right, they had Capitol Hill, just like you got Capitol Hill now. Two party system, which is those two horns on that beast that spoke as a that had two horns as a lamb, and spake as a dragon. That's what this is going into. All right, that same empire came back, and we're at the end of it. Yet the clay being mixed with it weakens the strength tremendously, because they're divided. The clay being common represents the rule of the common people through a democracy. Democracy is fine if the people are godly, but if they are not godly, power is given over to the devil. And you definitely see who the power is given to. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. That is exactly what has happened when these 10 nations formerly of the Roman Empire, united together with treaties, seek to dominate the world. The leader who will emerge from this coalition of nations will be none other than the anti-Mashiach, which, is not just one. The whole world is under this spirit. There's many anti Mashiachs out there, but you have, you know, the powerful ones, the rulers of the darkness of this world, the ones that are in control. That's what you see emerging now. All these people representing Satan at the these councils, the World Economic Forum. You know, that's present to you your near future, what it's going to look like, how, you know, your world is going to be ran by this and that, and how they're going to have all this control over you, and announcing that, you know, saying all these blasphemous things against the Most High, like that Harari demon. All right, the Klaus Schwabs, the Faucis, and all these different world leaders, man. All right. It says, it is interesting that the Lord said of the iron and clay mixture, they will mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. We see the difficulties that they are experiencing in bringing to pass the European community, all right, the European economic community, which turned into what? The um the European Union, which started off as the Treaty of Rome. So I'll let you know right there that, you know, the EU is actually the beast. All right, and their military power is NATO. That's the beast that's currently in power, and America is a part of that. That and it rides it. It has, you know, power over it. All right. So this individual at least knows this. It says it is as clumsy giant trying to rise to his feet while drunk. Every nation seeking the best for itself, and not anyone willing to give much to another. Some nations are even threatening to pull out of the union. You know, Brexit, Nexit, all them different European countries that threaten to pull out of the union because they're partially divided. And the kingdom that's divided against itself cannot stand. All right. So this is you know, he actually got this right. And then of course it goes into the stone out of the mountain, and that's talking about Yahushai. Okay. So, you know, I think I'm gonna cut it right there. You know, y'all can actually go into this. This is Chuck Smith commentary on Daniel 2 and 44. So, you know, we're at the end of this thing, man. This is the final captivity, the final dominion, and then Yahushua is going to come and bring an end to it. And, you know, that's what we're going to witness. Okay. So anyway, you know, I'm gonna cut it short, you know, because I got somewhere I got to be. You know, I would have actually continued to read and go into more precepts, but you know, my time is you know, cutting short. So you know, Lord willing, this was edifying. I'm gonna give all praise, glory, and honor to Yahweh Shem Shai. Until the next lesson, Shalom.